The video go?
Video's changed.
Yeah, it says it's hosting Volgraza.
What?
Yes.
No. Says right here. And we're right here.
Oh, wait. Now I see it. I don't know why I went that way, but we are here and
we
live.
are. We are. And it's another great night with Scuba and Narai. Hello out there in the interwebs.
Scuba and the Rye guy and his trusty pal Kirby. Sucking up air and other things back there, so.
Kirby's doing what Kirby does.
Suck it up and save the world.
Alrighty, so yeah, we got a couple of things to do tonight, a couple of things to hang out and chit chat about. Some setup changes, as you can see from here. I'm going to try and make sure I look at the camera at all times because, you know, got to talk to the camera like I'm talking to you.
The camera, right there, right there.
Ooh, that's really loud. Might have to adjust my noise gates later. Okay, anyways. Yeah. So, Tuesday, week 7, 21. I don't know. What week in lockdown are we at now?
Week infinity and beyond, as Buzz Lightyear would say.
That's fair. That's fair. All right. So, first thing off is a few announcements. And so, one of the first ones, and probably one of my biggest ones, is we have a merch store. Can you believe it?
Yes, we do.
Yep. I've been doing some upgrades to how I do all this and everything. And one of the things is set up an actual merch store through Stream Elements. So it's merch.com or merch.streamelements.com/scuba studio. Got t-shirts, hoodies, coffee cups, mouse pads, and stickers. This is all about the stickers.
You get all the stickers, put it all on the wall. I'm going to put them all over this wall back here since it's all blank.
Nice, nice. So, yeah, link to that in the show notes. And if you're watching us on live on Twitch on Tuesday nights, then there's a panel in there with a link you can go to hook us up. And if you do that while we're live, there should be a little alert notification that comes in. So that'll, you know, interrupt us and everything and just show how much awesome you are. And thank you. So, that being said, all right, another announcement is a shout out and a thank you to Syrinscape for allowing us to use the soundboards and ambient music. Tonight we're just kind of hanging out in Troll Skull Manor doing the relaxed music. So not to getting too heavy, we're just kind of chilling in the tavern, hanging out.
Hanging out, doing some chilling, drinking, exercising our wits and charms.
Oh, yes. And also a reminder that this started out as an audio podcast. It still is an audio podcast that's released on all the major podcast platforms. So go check it out at Google, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. Give us a listen. Give us a like. By all means, tell people about us.
Spread the word.
Oh, yeah. Lots of word. Lots of fun. So those announcements are just, you know, big end. Some other stuff we'll get into as far as our what's talking and all those other things. But let's roll into our What's Up, our fictional segment where we talk about what we've been doing for the last week and what kind of shenanigans we've been up to. And as usual, Rye, take it away.
We fall in my lap. Well, no, you don't want to do that. That might be scary, but Kirby's here to save you. So he's been busy with me most of the week since, you know, we are isolated into our homes and working from home.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty much it. Other than that, the side stuff I get into, I've been reading that book on screenplays. I'm more than halfway through it. So once I get done, I'll start plotting to figure out what I want to write as my first screenplay. But before that, I am working on one of my romance novels, editing it, doing my own edit, you know, go through because I hadn't read it in a while. So, you know, there's a lot of cleanup that needs to be done. And then I'm going to send it to one of my friends to look over it so she can put a good eye and spin and give me an opinion about it before I probably will publish it where I've published my other books through lulu.com, which is a good self-publishing website for anybody out there that likes to get their work out there. So other than that, lots of games, lots of watching TV since that's pretty much all I can do. And yeah. So.
Yeah.
Oh, I did almost forget one thing.
What's that?
I did go out to one of our local state parks over the weekend.
Oh, really?
First Landing.
Oh,
So
wow. Isn't it
me and
now
a
called
friend
Seashore State Park or some craziness? Or
reverse. It
was it
used to.
Seashore?
It was once called Seashore State Park.
Now it's First Landing. Gotcha.
Yes.
That's actually a pretty nice one. A lot of nice flat bike and walking trails, so it's pretty
Oh
good
yeah.
for getting out.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of good trails. You know, you got a lot of ups and downs depending on which trail you go on. The main trail, you know, it's pretty straightforward, but it's mainly for the bikers, the runners, the people that exercise. But if you go on the off trails,
Mm-hmm.
that's where you go on the ups and downs, which give you a little more, you know, a little more endurance. It's a good way, you know, especially it's an offshoot because it's in Virginia Beach, so it's kind of ironic. You have this, you know, largest city in Virginia, but also one of the largest state parks in Virginia in the same place. So it's kind of a oxymoron of sorts, but it's another good example of a lot of the things you can do outdoors wise in this area. It's like a hidden gem of sorts,
Oh,
but it's a
really?
local favorite because you know a lot of people like going out there because there's not just the trail side, there's the beach side. So you can
Okay.
always go to the beach side, you can go to the trail side. There's camp.
It's also like two
Areas.
sides of the road. You got a major road that runs through it. You can go on one
Yes.
side, cross the street to the other side. I've got a lot of good memories of doing Boy Scouts and stuff out there. So
Oh, yeah, yeah. I've been going out there for most of my life since I've been living here. But you know, we went out there, did about a good 10 miles, I'll say. So it took me a couple days for my legs to get back at it, but still got back at it.
that works, man. That works. All right. How's anything else interesting, or is just more planning for when the lockdown is lifted and we can all venture out into the world again?
Well, you know, just contemplating, you know, what I will do when the orders get lifted. But I know what I'm going to do when the orders get lifted, and I can go to my favorite brewery and get a drink and sit there and just relax.
And that is a great place to relax. And we're talking about Farmhouse Brewery, or Back Bay
Yes.
Farmhouse Brewery out here in Virginia Beach, Hampton Roads area. That's a good place to hang out. Alrighty,
The good stouts.
cool. Let's see. For me, I've been back and forth doing a few things. Obviously, I'm rearranged how I'm doing things here since trying to be more healthy. Do the whole standing versus sitting and kind of rearranged the setup a bit. Also, coming back to the PC Master Race.
You are.
Yeah, I
You are.
am. I am. For years, and I mean, for at least 5 years, I have been used for my primary computing when I'm not at work. Has been working off of a MacBook. I got a MacBook because I do Apple products for my mobile stuff. I like things that just work and not have to do a lot of these things. So, not giving a lot of hate to all the people who play on who use Android or whatever. I've got nothing against you guys doing Android. You guys do what you do. It's just for me and my family, I like Apple's architecture and environment. So let's not get the debate going there. But I've been using Apple for my mobile stuff. And now that I'm essentially doing this content creation and with this lockdown and a lot of admin and working from home, one of the things I realized right before my job and I had parted ways was I was doing remote a lot more than I ever have working for the company, but I would do all my remote stuff on like a little Surface. So it's a great computer. Microsoft Surface is great. I love working on it, but it's just the screen real estate kind of is not there. Thankfully, it was just remoting into another computer and doing all the work that way. But doing the job hunting and whatever, so essentially, even when I was doing tech support stuff, I had stopped having an actual desktop PC that I used for 7-8 years. So it's like, all right, I need to upgrade my stuff. Let me just, make the investment, see if that'll help me with job hunting and content creation. And of course, people keep giving me hate about the fact that I don't play PC games. It's like, I hear you,
No,
Saladin.
don't
I'm
rephrase
looking
that.
at you.
Yeah,
I'm looking at
that's
you,
him.
Saladin.
It is just one person. Just remember that. Not
It's
everybody.
not that.
Just one.
No, my buddy Rasputin and a couple others on there. It's like, okay, All right, I see you. I got you. Let me get back to the PC world. So, yesterday, Saladin came over and we ordered PC parts. We just had a big shopping spree ordering PC parts, and all of those parts are all of those parts are coming in, and it's like it's just wild. So,
You gotta let me know how that adventure begins
oh yeah,
on the PC Master Race.
I can't. Yeah, we're a lot of the parts is due to come in over the next week and a half or so. And I ordered not just computer parts. I have not had a dedicated workstation, so to speak, to sit at. I haven't really had. I haven't needed one because I haven't needed a desktop, so I don't have one. So I not only ordered a PC, but I ordered a desk. I ordered the PC. I ordered a new monitor, new keyboard, new mouse. Even ordered some lights to better do filming when I do recording stuff for the studio. So it's like I'm investing. I'm trying, but we'll see how it goes. I think we're going to end up streaming the whole build process and getting all of that stuff in there. So that'll be fun. Look for that to definitely be coming in the next few weeks. Excuse me. All right, let's see. I think that's the major thing. Of course, I've been tweaking the stuff with the show. As you can see, we got the little backgrounds, little stuff that's scrolling in there.
Everything around me.
Yes. Yeah. Trying to get, clean it up, make it a little better, more pretty. The rotating ticker of where you can find the studio and the social medias. But let's talk about it as if you're an audio person listening in. So I think that's it for my what's up that I can think of, because I think the computer's the biggest thing.
That is a pretty big thing.
Yeah, let's move on into reviews. So
reviews.
Ooh. It is that time. So we're gonna kind of transition right there. All right, so movie reviews for this week. We got a few things to talk about because we're not just talking about movies. We got a couple of TV shows too. So let's just kick right off into the gate here.
And that's kick it down.
Yep, first one, new Chris Hemsworth movie, Extraction, is just dropped on Netflix not too long ago, right?
Yeah, well, actually, it is. You would consider a new release if it was in theaters because it was released this weekend, but being a Netflix original, they just pop it right there on their streaming service. So it's right there for convenience.
I like it.
Yeah, convenience is great, especially in the streaming world.
All right, so let's see how this goes. So tell me about this. Talk about it. I haven't had a chance to watch it. I plan to watch it. I'll probably watch it tomorrow or something.
Oh yeah, Extraction. It came by me as a recommendation, but also it was showing up on my queue, and I piqued interest because one, it's an action film. It is produced by the Russo brothers. Joe Russo actually wrote the script, and it stars Chris Hemsworth in the role as Tyler Rake, who is a Black Ops mercenary guy. And the basic story structure is that on his most deadliest mission yet, Tyler Rake takes on an extraction job to rescue the son of an international crime boss. So that's pretty much the premise. That's the storyline. That is point A to point B from end to end, beginning, middle, end. Doesn't waver, doesn't deviate from that plot point. So what you have is Tyler Rake. He gets recruited by this international crime boss of India, which is like the top dog drug lord of India, who his son gets taken by the top drug lord of Bangladesh. So it's basically just he basically just takes them hostage because. So now Tyler Rake comes in and he has to go and get the son out of Bangladesh, out of the city of Dhaka. I think I said it right, Dhaka. So you pretty much follow him as he goes in, gets the son, and tries to survive all the craziness that ensues to get this boy back home safely. So it is a straightforward action flick. So everything you can think of that would invoke the basics of the action genre is layered out within the first like 5-10 minutes. So it is pretty much you have your introduction to the protagonist, the antagonist, and the mission. But what makes this film so enjoyable is the action and the protagonist himself. Um, Chris Hemsworth as Tyler Rake, he gives you a spin of the anti-hero, but with a tragic past. So he is like ruthless and vicious, but there is very subtle ways that he interacts with certain individuals that shows you that he has some kind of heart and character. Especially when he gets introduced to the boy, which is the key incident that drives everything in the film. So with him and that boy, there is a relationship that develops that produces what I called wits within action. So basically, you get this wits and emotional veracity through his own display of action when he's fighting against all the oncoming um, enemy fodder. So no matter if it's the police, if it's the gang of kids with guns, if it's just the random other assassin that shows up, like you feel the emotions through just him taking out everybody one by one. And the action itself is probably top and pristine because it's so technically so technical within the choreography that it puts a lot of action movies to shame because they don't use the gimmicky shaky cam, which actually is a personal pet peeve of mine because that drives me insane whenever I see the shaky cam in a film because it just shows that you're lazy, that you're just completely lazy when it comes to doing action. So the person that directed this film is actually a stunt guy. So it's Sam Hargrave, who directed this film. He is a stunt guy, so he understands choreography, action of pinpointing it. And the one thing, especially for you, you would like this. They do use a technique in this film that they used in your one of the movies we watched earlier this year, and probably one of your favorites, is that continuous one shot camera technique. So there is one scene. It's a 20-minute action scene where it's nonstop. You just follow Tyler Rake as he goes through this apartment. He's taking out cops. He's going hand-to-hand combat. He's shooting, and then all of a sudden he fights in the street, and they go have a knife combat, and it's just one shot the whole way through.
That sounds like the kind of stuff we saw in the John Wick franchise with the whole
Oh yeah,
kung fu.
oh yeah. You see a lot of flavor of John Wick 1917 in this because you just follow them as they're trying to survive. They're trying to survive all the craziness that this drug lord in Bangladesh is throwing at them, but also at the same time you see this like soul searching in the mercenary, as even though he has this tragic past and he's very brutal, like the action is very brutal, there is an endearment to what he's doing.
Okay.
So that actually creates a sensation that pushes it above style over substance. The action is raw and realistic. Nothing feels completely out of bounds, like a film we watched a couple weeks ago, Six Underground, where the action was very bombastic and very, just over the top. And it worked within a degree, but it was very cartoonish. Things fell out of place. But the reason this film is a lot better than that is because it pushes the action within its own reality without being too unrealistic, and it pushes you past the flaws of the film, which is the basic outline of the film. It is by the numbers an action film. You know what's going to happen. You know how the film is going to wrap up. You know that you're going to have your typical man against the world with that mission accomplished kind of climax. But even though you know that, it's the journey and the action that keeps you on the edge of your seat.
Okay. Interesting.
Oh yeah.
All right. So, what would you call this?
Because of the action, because of the visual prowess of everything that is going on, and the way they put emotion and character development within the action, it's one of the rare times that you don't need character development to make you care about the protagonist. There's just enough but you just watch it within, just his interactions. So I gave it a 4 out of 5. It is worth a full price if it was at the theaters, but it is available on Netflix, and I do recommend it for anybody that's an action film, and that loves action films, because this is one of the top-notch ones out there.
Okay. Cool. I'll have to definitely check it out. I was planning on it, but I got a little caught up on a few things. So
I would recommend it to you, especially because
I
you
did
like.
watch the trailer, so I'm
Yeah.
familiar with the trailer. It did feel did pique my interest, but I was kind of curious about what it was. So no, I think I
Oh,
might
yeah.
go. I'll probably go check it out. So
Yeah.
with that, talking another. So this seems to be Netflix night. Next thing we're
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about is the Netflix series, or is I don't know, is this a series or is it a film?
Yeah,
But
it's a
it's
lim. It's a
Godless.
Yeah, Godless it is a Western drama, a miniseries that was created by Scott Frank for Netflix. So
Okay.
it's only about it is only 7 episodes. So it's a miniseries. It's kind of like Chernobyl on HBO
Okay.
and The Outsiders on HBO. It's a miniseries, so it's a one shot, only happens one time. So it's a Western that takes place out in Colorado, and you follow this group of outlaws that led by Frank Griffin, who's chasing down one of their ex members, Roy Good, as he basically hijacked a train heist from them, and that's where the story starts off, and you just follow the characters as there's a cat and mouse game, but in a very slow, methodical way.
Okay.
And this series, it's a by the numbers typical Western, but what makes it stand out is the characters. And if you ever watched if you know Westerns, it's dialogue heavy. So if you're not a fan of dialogue driven stories, this is not for you.
Well,
But
how would this compare to like Westworld, which is
Westworld.
a modern Western type thing?
Oh, no, no. Godless is a traditional Western. It takes place in the accurate time. There's no like sci-fi computer, nothing. This is a straight up Western, and
Okay.
you're just following as these characters evolve through this landscape and have to deal with their circumstance. And eventually everything comes to head when Frank Griffin and the gang roll into down. The town that is the central focus of the story is called LaBelle, and it's a mining town where all the men that were in the mine died from an accident, so it's pretty much ran by all the women now.
Okay.
So it
Interesting.
does have a lot of it is that is the one twist that is a little bit different than typical westerns. It's very female centric, but it's not to the point where it beats your head over it. There's a reason why, because the men died in the mine, so they're the only ones left in the town running it. So, but it's a very good western. I would recommend it to anybody that's a fan of westerns, because it's you watch the characters as they evolve. They kind of learn from circumstance. They have the typical reflection, and then you have the all out gunfights, that happen in the end. So definitely, it's definitely a good treat.
All right. So, I mean, 7 episodes. It sounds like we have highs and lows. Is there any particularly unique highs, or particularly unique lows, or is it just fall into some of the classic tropes?
It plays off the classic tropes, but plays off with the twist of subtlety. So everything, if you ever watch Western series, it's very much on point and blunt. When the sheriff comes into town and they say, "We're here to get the bad guy," or the bad guy are snarling, they don't play that. They layer each character within like a methodical approach where they have their own flaws. Everybody has their own flaws. There's no good or bad. Everybody has a moral compass that has been shaded. So they're
Okay.
all just trying to find their place, and they all kind of bounce off each other. Like one of the main characters, Roy Good, he comes across a farm, which this lady whose husband has died has been an outcast from LaBelle, but yet they still interact with her because they need her horses. So it's kind of like they outcast her and lambast her for no reason, but they still use her. And then she doesn't want to deal with them, but she kind of has to. And then she has her own past. So every character has a little bit of shade. So it doesn't have the traditional good versus bad. It's just a matter of who do you want to side with? And the series builds up on that and shows you how everybody has a reason to fight each other and everybody has a reason to want to survive.
Okay.
So,
It's interesting.
and the good thing is they don't just force it. They don't just tell you things. You one of the great things about westerns, if it's a great western, is that it lets the visuals, it lets the mannerisms, and it lets the texturing of the actors and actresses play out the scenes.
Okay.
So if you're familiar with western, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So basically, if they're standing there or they're having a conversation, they don't have to thrust you into a romance. You can you watch it evolve. You see it organically evolve.
Okay.
So
that sounds interesting. All right. So what are we gonna call it? Obviously, I'm going for a full 7-episode or overall Rye scale rating. What would you call it?
Overall series rating, it's got its highs and lows. It gets slow at some points, but that's typical of a western. It plays off the tropes, and it does end in a good high note. So I would say a good 3.5 out of 5.
3.5. Okay, cool. Well, that's another one I have to try and check out. I'm almost caught up with my YouTube feed, so been doing a lot of watching on how-tos and things. All right, our last one to talk about as far as reviews go is another series on Netflix called OBX, or The Outer Banks. It's like, okay, so is this supposed to be like centered in our local neck of the woods? Because The Outer Banks, I think, is only like an hour and a half from me.
I think all I have to do is go down the street, but
Well,
yeah,
it is. First, you have to
pass
pass my place to get to the Outer Banks, so I think I'm a little close.
I can go around that. Yeah, true.
Fair. So, what's up with this one?
Okay, so you hit the nail on the nod. It is a show that follows a group of teenagers in this recreation of the Outer Banks of North Carolina, and it focuses on a group of teenagers that are known as Pogues, and they're like the lower class of people that live on the Outer Banks, and the higher class of people on the Outer Banks are called Kooks. And what it is, it focuses on this group of teenagers that is trying to find out what happened to the main person that leads this group, called John B. What happened to his father? Who?
So is this like is this a mystery, or like a crime mystery, or solving a mystery type thing?
It's an action adventure teenage drama. So think of it like Dawson's Creek meets the OC meets an adventure film set in the Outer Banks.
See, I have a hard time with that. And here's why I'm having a hard time with it. Maybe you can help me understand. Okay. I never watched Dawson's Creek.
Okay.
I never watched the OC.
Okay.
So adventure flick, yeah, but when you sat there and said this is a group of kids looking for the fate of somebody, that to me sounds like a classic Scooby-Doo type situation. Kids investigate.
Yeah, you could say that, but it's not campy, it's not cheesy, it's not kid friendly. Like, I would call this like a typical primetime drama.
Okay.
Say like let me drop back to the 90s. Beverly Hills 90210.
Vaguely maybe, on that.
Okay. So I would give it like a primetime drama, but with these teenagers that are trying to figure out what happened to the father, which leads them to some form of a legendary treasure that was lost at sea. So each episode is a little bit of revealing about this, and each if you've done like a mystery, each clue leads to something bigger and more dangerous.
Yeah.
And this show is it takes that primetime drama format that you might be familiar with on network television, but because it's on Netflix, it is very low key vicious, and they do not care about characters and outcomes. So anybody can meet the end of a gun in this show. So it plays off that irony where it's a catch-22. It looks like a typical prime time drama, but it flips the switch on you, and all these characters have like heavy flaws, have tragic fates, no matter if it's the main character John B or if it's any of the other characters that you come across in the show.
Huh.
So while the mystery is trying to be resolved, people die, tragedies happen, and the main character keeps falling into these traps of disarray, like just one hit after the other, and it just makes you're just like, what else can go wrong for this main character who is not at fault for anything? He just gets caught up in the wrong things. So,
Okay.
but it is set in a fictitious Outer Banks. There's a lot of obvious flaws for anybody that's familiar with the Outer Banks, but even with those obviousness, it doesn't take away from like the adventure, because the setting is very, from what I understand, the setting of like the class system of the poor and the rich reflects that area. They just do it in a very sensationalized way, but at times it's very realistic. So there's a lot of things that stay true to it, like the fishing economy, the beach life, the summer party fun. That's typical of the Outer Banks. It's just
Okay.
there's a couple technical things that you and me would catch it because we're very familiar with Outer Banks,
All right.
especially
All
episode
right.
4.
All right.
And if you watch it, you'll know what I'm talking about.
All right. So, what are we going to call the rating on this one? Or, and actually, no.
Um,
Before you answer that, how many episodes is this? Is this like something that's like an
all
episodic
right.
TV series, or is this a mini series
Um,
type thing like Godless?
it is. It's only had one season because it was released this year.
Oh no, but
So it's one season, 10 episodes,
all right. So
about
this is
right
geared to
around
be
an hour
a
apiece.
episode. This is geared to be a like we'd see this on like Fox or CW or something like that.
Yeah, it's a serialized series.
Okay, so what's our rating for season 1?
Season 1, pushing aside the obvious tropes that it plays on with that primetime television stuff, it pulls you in with the typical tropes of a primetime drama, but it plays a red herring really quick and dives deeper into the madness that involves this mystery, all the characters, and just the subtle viciousness that happens underneath everything that seems to be pristine.
Okay.
I would actually give it a 4 out of 5. I thoroughly enjoyed it because it keeps you wanting to watch. And
Okay.
if you watch, the one good thing about a TV series, no matter what, is like if it keeps you wanting to watch, then it's worth watching because it wants you to see what happens to the characters, and it doesn't play favorites with the characters, which I like. It's like watching Game of Thrones all over again, but not as great because Game of
Game of
Thrones is on
Thrones
a
with
whole.
surfboards.
Yeah, Game of Thrones with surfboards. There you go. I like that one. It's a good tagline.
Alrighty, alrighty. Well, that's interesting.
You get the gist.
I get the gist. I really do.
Yeah.
And interesting. All right.
But like I said, the technicalities of some of the technicalities of the filming, you will see them. And you're gonna laugh when you see them, especially episode 4. I'm pointing out episode 4 for a reason, and you'll know why.
All right. Well, I think at this point we're ready to move on to our next segment, State of Game. Alrighty. State of Game, the point in the show where we talk about the various games we're playing and how they're going, whether it's video games, tabletop games, or any other game we play. We're gonna talk about how we're doing in that. Just as okay, this is how we keep things entertaining, and there are a lot of stuff that could be done with games. I know video game wise, Monday night Scuba plays on here on live streams on Twitch, where I go through video games. I think for the last 2 months I've been going through the Division 2. Last night I hit level 30, so now working on finishing up the map. At this point, it's also just kind of helping Rye when he joins me to reach level 30 on Xbox. I know he's already well past that on PlayStation, so we won't even talk about that.
Oh
I
yeah,
did
that's a whole other world over there.
I did pick up Stranded Deep on Xbox. I'm probably gonna dust that off here soon. I'm just not sure if I'm gonna stream that or just play offline and just make videos to post up on for content. But Ryan, what video games you been playing?
Other than Division 2 with Scuba, you can check us out Monday nights. And I've been like since I have the systems, I kind of navigate between them depending on what games I want to play. So now I'm shifting back over to mostly playing on the PS4, and that's because of one game that dropped recently, which I've talked about. I got into just a little bit, but got into a lot deeper now. Is the Final Fantasy VII Remake. So I've been putting a lot of time in that game just because one, it's awesome. Two, it's nostalgia, and three, it's just a wonderful game to play right now.
Oh,
Like
sweet.
it's a good escape from all the stuff that's happening around us. But two, just it just fits that niche of what I like in a game. Like the combat, it's an action RPG fusion because when you're in combat and fighting, you're it's real time, but you can flip it to where you can use magic. You can flip between the characters in your party to fight with and use their stuff. And just watching the cinematic and the story evolve and the interaction with other, NPCs in the world, you get thrust into their lives. And I enjoy the journey because it gives you that pureness of the escape.
Okay.
Even if it's typical video game tropes and stuff, it's just that escape is what I like.
We're talking Final Fantasy VII, right?
Yeah, Final Fantasy VII Remake.
That's timeless, and
Yeah.
I actually seriously thought about buying a PlayStation 4 recently just so I could play that game because I got sick and tired of hearing people talking about playing that game.
Well, you're gonna hear from me for a while.
Oh yeah. I mean, how far are you on it?
I got through a few more major missions, and now I am in chapter, if I remember correctly, chapter 8
Okay.
of the story.
So you still got quite a few to go.
Oh yeah, I got a while to go because what happens is I get distracted, and I like to venture out and do other things.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of side quests. I like how they've fleshed out so much more of Midgar and things to do in Midgar. And you can definitely also tell a lot of things from when the game first came out to and what's considered pulp culture in today's society versus what was then. You can see that they've incorporated it into the game, but it doesn't feel like it's a rebound. It's changing the game much other than expanding on sections of the map that we never really saw, because obviously in the early 90s there was a very limited or mid 90s there was a very limited technology when it came to putting that out.
Oh yeah. So I definitely this is, I guess, the way I can see it, at least in the latter half of these the PS4 and the Xbox One era, is that it's been the era of remakes. Like they've been pumping out a lot of remakes in the last few years of old games. Not just Final Fantasy VII Remake. You had them redoing Crash Bandicoot, the Insane Trilogy, which I have on the Switch. They did Resident Evil 2 Remake, which I have on Xbox. They did the Resident Evil 3 Remake this year. And there's countless others I can name. So it's reliving, playing these games again, but with updated graphics, expansion of story, and like adding new gameplay mechanics, just gives it a fresh of new air. Because it is a story that it is a timeless story. It's a familiar story, just like when I was playing Resident Evil 2 Remake, but it feels like a new experience because it's been rebuilt from the ground up.
Okay.
Especially Final Fantasy VII, because the original Final Fantasy VII is a traditional JRPG, which is turn-based. This isn't turn-based. This is action-based. So they pulled a lot of elements from Final Fantasy 15 in this, but added a lot more stuff to it.
Yeah, I was talking with my friend Rasputin, and he had some strong opinions on it because obviously he's gone through it. He's going through it again now on hard mode
Oh, I'm
to
not going to do that.
platinum it, right? And what some
Yeah.
of the stuff we talked about is like, obviously I'm familiar with Final Fantasy 15, which I really love playing, but
Yeah, it's definitely a fun game.
that combo system where it's like the AI operated the companions, and you flipped through, but you were kind of locked in Octus, but you also could kind of flip through for certain things, but they were more of assistance. Well,
Yeah.
and he said, comparatively, it seems like they took that way too far to where if you're not whichever one of your parties the active person, that's the one the creature will attack. So you literally have to constantly flip between person to person just to balance the attacks from the creature, because the other if you're the primary one, the creature is going to come and attack you. The other two in the party will attack side by side, but the creature seems to ignore them. And
I've not really had that issue. I mean, yeah, there are times when you're getting attacked, but not. At least if you saw the video that I posted on my YouTube, it was like a 30-second video of me gameplaying through it. I wasn't the main character wasn't the only one attacked. Like you'll see the other characters fighting the other enemies over here on the side. So I don't know if it was just his mode. I'm just playing on normal right now.
Okay.
So it might be a hard mode related thing.
It could be, and again, it's different opinions and different perceptions, which is the whole point of what we're talking about. I mean, some games, various playthroughs, various people are going to have different experiences, and these are just some of the things I'm collecting because I ask people, "Hey, what did you think of this? What did you not like about it?" That kind of thing. So yeah. Final Fantasy VII, Division 2. What about your Switch? Because you've got a Switch too. Anything currently on that? Are you part of the Animal Crossing obsession right now, I think is the word?
I am avoiding that obsession because I already have a lot of games that I'm playing. Well, just one game, but it takes up my time.
Fair.
The only game I got back into that I do play on the Switch when I do play it is a Torchlight 2.
Okay.
And that game is I just love playing that game because it is an action RPG, but it's a loot extravaganza in that game. So you just get loot constantly, and you can just constantly swap. I love the mechanic with your pet. You can send your pet back into town to sell everything and come back, and you don't have to go back and forth. So that's always a good thing. But
it's definitely convenient.
So I'm playing through that. I mean, I still got to eventually work through Octopath Traveler on there, and maybe a couple other indie RPGs I downloaded on there, but I only usually just play that when I'm out and about or on the go or at my girlfriend's house because it's easy just to take it there. So, but other than that, there might be a couple other games that I might dabble into, like one that I finally took out the wrapper, and it's on the system. It's just a matter of playing it, which is Days Gone.
Oh, you know what? You will get to it, I have no doubt.
Yeah, what, in 50 years? But I
guess it'll depend on how long it takes you to get a PlayStation 5.
Nah, that'll take a minute, but also Journey, because it was a free download on the PS4, so we'll be playing through that.
Okay.
And then maybe a few other games in the near future in the next few months. It just depends on what drops.
All right. Let's see. I got a couple. Huh?
I was just whispering Cyberpunk. So yeah, that is in the future.
Yeah, that's the future. All right. On my notes here, I got a couple of campaign diaries, so to speak. Last Friday, the No Quarter D&D game happened. This is one we've been doing via Zoom, and actually, the session was actually a low key session compared to the last couple. Because to be honest, the last couple, the party was in dire straits. This one, they got back into town, did some shopping, so it was a downtime type thing. And then it was like, hey, and I was really struggling because the party wanted to move toward Wave Echo Cave, which in the Lost Mines module is like the last place you go before completing the module. So you're expected to it's kind of expected to be level 4, level 3, level 4. 3 if you take it slow, 4 is a challenge. Well, I didn't want to let the party go there because I did not want to scale it down to level 2 players. I wanted to leave it being kind of that impact of actually completing it. But thankfully, because I'm merging the Icespire module and the Lost Mines module together because of my shared universe, was able to kind of spin the party toward doing some of the first quests for Icespire, which is basically running around and telling people, hey, watch out, there's a dragon moved into the area, maybe you should come back to the town to be safe. So now they're kind of doing the whole errand run. They went to the first one, which was a windmill, to meet with someone there who makes potions. They wanted to try and buy some potions. And of course, as they come up on the hill, there is a manticore that is chilling there trying to get into the front door because it was displaced by the dragon. The party just runs in and starts attacking it. And they manage to drive it off because I'm getting better at my tactics. So they drove it off, and then it's like now they're moving into the next one. And the interesting things from a tech side, because we're all in this lockdown and all not away, is I'm using this as a way to kind of play test how I want to do a D&D podcast, because I want to do another podcast. I want to do a D&D one. Yeah, I'm a little late to the game. There's hundreds of them out there. I get it. But going through Zoom, we use the whiteboard app, a feature inside Zoom to put up a map for some tactical views. And it looks like Discord just recently opened up video conferencing for voice channels. So I have a feeling that this is going to be a great option. I just need to get a group of players together to actually test it out. But that was the No Quarter game, which we'll meet again not this Friday, but next Friday. And they'll be going into a gnome area that should last a session, maybe 2 sessions, I think, depending on how the party wants to go through this and how methodical I am in my prep. Another game thing to talk about, and this is Saturday. Rasputin and Professor Penumbra both came over because we were all getting a little tired of this isolationist thing. They came over and we played a game of Eldritch Horror. Now, Penumbra has that and all the expansions, so we set this up. This game lasted about 8 hours.
That's a long time.
You really didn't realize it, though. I mean, aside from the setup takes a while because you have the various modules to go through, but then it's just going through, and we managed to beat the game, which is really hard because Eldritch Horror all the Eldritch games tend to, if you make the wrong, depending on how the cards come up, you're either really, really excited or you're really, really dead. I happen to play a character who died 2 turns before the end, so I had to start a whole new character right at that point. But it's not a bad game. I definitely want to add it to my collection. But my son played with us, and so it was the 4 of us playing this game, and it went really well. But so looking forward to the next one. Excuse me. All right. Well, I think that's it for the state of game. So I guess that means we can move on to some news type things and some odds and ends. So just a quick transition over for that. Alrighty, odds and ends. The point where we talk about all these various news articles that we see and what we think of them, and we got some bigger news stuff, and then we got a bunch of other stuff. So we got this big list, and we're just gonna roll right through it. So, Ra, you want to start us off?
Oh yeah, I'll start off with actually the breaking news that I snuck in there at the very last minute.
Well, that's a pretty good one because that we can roll that right into another one. So yeah.
Oh, yeah. So it was just breaking today that the Oscar ceremonies, Oscar 2021, is actually allowing streaming films to be eligible for the award season. So, quoting from the article on Screen Rant, until further notice, and for the 93rd awards years only, films that had a previously planned theatrical release but are initially made available on a commercially streaming or VOD service may qualify in Best Picture, General Entry, and Specialty categories for the 93rd Academy Awards under these provisions.
All right.
The film must... Yes. You can go.
All right. Okay. Shenanigans? Flag on the play? I mean, they're just now allowing them. What about previous films that were released on Netflix or whatever and that never got a theatrical release? Were those really just not counted? I could have sworn in several of the contenders we talked about last awards ceremony, a couple of them came off of Netflix.
Yeah, but they did have theatrical runs. So if the way it plays out for the Oscars is the film has to play within from January 1st to January 31st, at least in one theater during that time frame.
Oh,
so
wait a minute. What about Bright? I know that's a couple years removed, but wasn't that because that was a Netflix only, or did it actually get a small theatrical run?
Which film?
Bright. Will Smith.
Bright. Yeah, that was never nominated at the Oscars.
Oh.
Yeah.
But was it? But because of the rules, it wasn't even considered a possibility.
I think it had one run at a theater because on the red carpet ceremony night that they had, it was at the theater one time. So the rule is, it's like as long as it plays in the theater, within that year, it's eligible. So that's why you have a lot of films that get that near the end of the year, which is the Oscar season. They get that limited release around Christmas time, and then full release in the next couple of weeks. Like 1917 had a limited release on Christmas, and then about January 12th when we watched it, that's when it went full release. So films like The Irishman, Manchester by the Sea, Roma, they had their theater run. They had a theater run. Plus, they were at the film festivals too. So that counts with that. So, but because the reason they lifted the rule this year is because of the circumstance, and a lot of theaters being closed, the only way films are getting released right now until theaters open is either streaming platforms or VOD. So to allow for films to be eligible, they had to lift that rule up, and any film that is released. So, but what it is that it could be a normalization of things to come in the not too distant future. Maybe not within a year, but it's actually showing that a willingness of a traditional award platform, even with the circumstance, allowing it to happen, shows that there might be a normalization of the times to come. And this plays on the fact that a lot of people watch through streaming because with the expansion of broadband and connectivity and all that stuff, what this also is going to do is that because they lifted this rule, a lot of those films that most people don't get to see, that are low-key indie films, smaller films, or even like films like 1917 that we watched. Not everybody saw 1917, or maybe the movie that won Best Picture, Parasite, the Korean film. This gives them the opportunity. Yeah, this gives them the opportunity to push it out to the wide masses, because everybody, I'm not gonna, let me rephrase that, most everybody has access to the major streaming platforms, or at least of on demand, because on demand is provided to you through your cable provider.
Oh, that
So
and various cell phone providers provide at least one of the
yeah,
major services. And not to mention, if it's available on the internet, somebody's seen it.
yeah.
So, okay.
And what this is, it's actually, even though it's a tradition that people, the Oscars, have been hampered on, just the fact they lifted it up, what it's going to do is going to create a positive, because it's going to create a lot more, put more eyes on things and create more buzz. At the same time, it's going to draw attention to both, not just films that you might not have seen, but it'll open a wide eyes to maybe foreign films,
Okay.
low key murder mysteries, more heavy dramas or period pieces that people would not be exposed to, because most of the time, especially nowadays, the theaters are littered with either big blockbusters or big action films, like tentpole films. So
Now,
this will diversify the movie market.
do you think that this rule will extend after
Well,
this year?
the Academy of Motion Pictures said until further notice, so they're only applying it at least for this run, but not knowing what the future holds. And the fact they said until further notice, that doesn't mean there's an end date. There's
Okay.
at least, because there's at least going, it's going to apply to at least
Well, it
the
said the
93rd
93rd
Academy.
season, so
Yeah, no, but it might go past that, because if this actually, because what this does, like I said, it opens up the floodgates for indie filmmakers, distribution outlets. It opens up more eyes to films beyond the festivals, so it might actually generate even more income and more advertising dollars for the movie industry by just this one rule being lifted.
okay. Well, I guess we'll see how that goes. Well,
What do you think about
let's
it?
take it from there since we were talking about
Yeah.
that. Let's take it from there and roll into this article about Georgia cinemas reopening rules.
Oh yeah.
Apparently, Georgia is one of the first states that's going to be reopening post COVID-19 lockdown, and there's a number of restrictions that are in play. Things like parties can't be more than 6 people in size. They're going to be checking your fever or checking your temperature to see if you have a fever or any potential symptoms of COVID. And you're going to be at least 6 feet apart. And then in between showings, they're going to be basically wiping down and sanitizing every square inch of the theater. This is, it seems like a lot. I mean, my first reaction to thinking about this is that you're going to have more time between showings, so you're going to have fewer showings in a day. But it's going to be, and then as like we were talking last night during the game stream, it was, well, how many movies are they actually going to play right now? Because most everything's already been shifted back at least 6-9 months out. But
So yeah, there's a lot of question marks, but at the same time, with those question marks, you can pump in any movie you want. You can bring in marathons, you can bring in stuff, but the big thing is like what you brought up, is like all the stipulations. It's going to be a litmus test on how the new norm is going to be until there is some kind of cure.
it's
How is
either
that
going to
going
be
to play
some
out?
type of cure or like many other things. Once it's no longer a daily thing, you're going to just start reverting back
Yeah.
to old habits. I mean, this is psychological at this point. But what strikes me is like, and I thought about I read this article and then today I went out and I went out to Walmart because
Yeah.
I very rarely go outside the house. But I went to Walmart and it was such a pain in the butt to go to Walmart. I mean, one door shut down, the other one you got this weaving line and stickers on the ground, and it's just such a pain in the butt to go out to the store. It's like I'm really hoping they do well. I don't want to frown on any potential business, anything trying to get back to the quote unquote new normal. But this one is like, this strikes me as like, okay, how many showings does a theater do in a day? 8, 10 per theater?
Yeah, it depends on the movie. A movie length is about an hour and a half to two.
Well,
Movies usually start.
right now, if you go with a 2 hour thing and theaters open from about 9 or 10 a.m. to about 10 p.m., that's 12 hours. Figure 12 hours, they're going to get at least six movies per theater in that time frame. Now it seems like you're going to have less, because I think trying to think about how you would go about doing this is how my mind is. I want to think about the order of operations. It's like, okay, if I've got a theater with 5 say, just for sake of easy math, I've got a theater with 6 different theaters. I'm probably going to run a movie in one theater, and then the next showing will start in the next theater. And kind of work around, because once I get done with it, I've got to spend, depending on the number of staff, because you have to also limit the amount of staff you have working so that they're practicing proper social distancing. So it's probably going to take you a length of a film just to clean the theater before you could do the next film, based on all these requirements. And that's assuming you're even going to have a lot of people in there. Or the fact that, okay, how many seats do you have in like a standard theater, not counting the special stuff like IMAX or Dolby or any of that other stuff, but you can fit, what, 100, 150 people in a single theater?
Yeah.
And now you've got to limit it to groups of 6, and they've got to be at least 6 feet away in all directions. So, I mean, you're going to get what? Maybe 25 to, say, 30 people in that theater for that one showing?
Yeah, I think this is a good litmus test for that, to see how it works, because one, with these theaters opening, at least in the states that are opening, like Georgia, Tennessee, mostly the southern states, there's an obviousness why it's the southern states, but it's a good litmus test because, like you said, there's going to be fewer viewings, there's going to be less people, but there's no new releases. So if you know how people are, when it comes to seeing movies in the 3rd, 4th, 5th week when it gets released, it's less and less. So now you're going to be rehashing old films. There's not going to be too many people. You're going to be able to play on that logisticness, on the logistics of it, because one, you're re-showing old films, so most people are not. It's like, I have that on Blu-ray. Why I want to go see that? So it's gonna the less people is already going to happen because there's nothing to see.
That might also be more of, I just want to get out of the house.
Yeah. So it creates a logistic nightmare of sorts, but with it being that there are no new releases until I think at least the end of July, it creates enough of a testing ground to see how they can test the new normal, when the new movies start to drop.
Yeah, I get it.
And then even when that happens, are the studios going to be playing on, put it in theaters and on VOD because of certain things, that they've been testing out with the VOD stuff?
I really think VOD is going to do a serious damage on the traditional theater experience, but I think, like drive-ins, you're never going to get rid of it. But I think it's going to be more of, I'll just pay $20 to rent this film.
Oh yeah, that's the one thing about it, which I brought up not too long ago on a previous podcast, probably. I can't remember, but the VOD for these new releases is twice as much as a traditional VOD release, because a VOD release is about $3 to $9, but because these are brand new films, they've been doubling up on it, making it $20.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But when you look at a family of 4 spending $20 over certain amounts that you spend at the theater, it outweighs it. On you have a family of 4 like you, or you have just me. It's an outweigh of who you're trying to aim for.
Yeah.
So, but I think what they're going to do to draw people out, they're going to probably have to play marathons. They're going to have to play the bigger known films back to back. They're going to have to give discounts. They're going to have to, do package deals of some sort, which might actually play into a new norm after everything passes, where you might have these package deals and discounts and marathons later on.
Oh, don't forget
Or package against
the whole thing with watch parties, because Twitch is right now
Oh, yeah.
experimenting with watch parties, and I'm eagerly waiting for that option to become available to me. Unless more people subscribe to help me get to affiliate, but
Yeah, help us out. Subscribe today, people.
yeah, please subscribe. Check us out. All right. Okay, so we got that. Let's move on to the next article. And our next article is, we both have history in IT. We both have done a lot of various things with that, and sometimes we hear about various breaches, but there was a recent breach that caught our attention, and that was a breach of Nintendo's digital records. Something
Yes.
about 160,000 profiles were breached, or
Yeah.
or whatever you want to call it, for what happens when you get a big company hack like this.
Yeah, it was as reported on Kotaku. Nintendo confirmed that possibly as many as 160,000 Nintendo accounts were breached in a hack earlier this month. So based on this article, they got a hold of Nintendo Network IDs, which were originally connected to Wii U and Nintendo 3DS systems.
Uh-oh.
I knew something was up because the last time I got on my Switch, they put up on the Switch, they have news releases. So there's a news section on your Switch, and one of the news releases had instituting that two login system. So I knew something was up. Yeah, two-factor authentication. That was the first thing I saw when I booted up my Switch just a couple days ago. So I knew something was up. And then when I was scouring the interwebs, I came across this article. So it is kind of sad that people will just be willing to do all this stuff. But it was pretty obvious that it might have happened to Nintendo, because if you know their internet capabilities or their online ecosystem, it's not as strong as Sony's or Microsoft.
No, it's not.
No.
But yeah, we'll see how that goes. Alrighty. Let's see. Let's move into we got the major articles, so these are what we consider the major ones, at least to us. So now we got a bunch of others we're gonna just rapid fire go through.
Are we going straight down the list?
Well, let's see what weaves into something else.
Okay, but
get a little defocused on me.
Oh, look at that! There's a hazy Scuba.
I know. What's up with that? Maybe I'm just moving too much. Who knows?
You jumped in the North Atlantic instead of the South Pacific. That was your problem.
Ha ha ha. Well, hopefully it's not the camera failing on me.
No.
Alrighty, well, while I take a look at that, let's stay on the Nintendo train and go and talk about this rather odd Nintendo-related story.
Yeah, speaking of Nintendo, this is reported on Mashable.com. Someone turned a real Glock gun into a clone of the Nintendo Duck Hunt Zapper. So there is a photo on the website on Mashable where it literally, you could be confused of it being the actual gun used for the game, but it's an actual Glock.
Huh. Well, I reading this one, there was the talk about the fact that this seemed like you kind of have a mixed bag as far as the reviews of it, which struck me as kind of hilarious. Because you had those people like, oh, someone will be confused, it's a toy and not a real gun, and then you're gonna have those who are like, oh, that is awesome, where can I get one?
Oh yeah, you'll have various different responses, but as reported on the article, on the Facebook page of Precise Syndicate LLC, a Texas-based machine prototype company, the gun looks remarkably similar to the Nintendo's original non-lethal version. They have to. They had to indicate the non-lethal version of the Nintendo controller.
Oh, but of course. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the camera.
Hey,
We're just gonna roll with it. We're just gonna
well,
roll with it.
we're just pretending we're under the sea, so it gets a little hazy under there with no goggles. So swim, people, swim.
All right. Next one up on our thing, talking games. Let's talk about Bandai Namco giving away Pac-Man.
Oh yes. So Mankind Namco is giving away a free game on the PS4, Steam, and Xbox One user, which you just mentioned.
So, I mean, this is not the first time. I mean, Pac-Man seems to be that game that just keeps coming round and round and round again.
But you cannot get too much of Pac-Man. It's Pac-Man.
Oh yeah, I mean it's classic. It's classic. But yeah, new version of the newest version of Pac-Man is going to be released or is released out there for free on all the major gaming platforms, basically. So hey,
go grab it today.
I mean, this is like this whole thing with this whole being in lockdown or whatever. It seems like it's what's the word I'm looking for? It seems like it's a boon for gamers because so many more gaming opportunities seem to have arisen during this than any other time previously.
Yes, definitely. A lot of games have been, dropping down, and it's the same thing with the streaming platforms. Like, it just suspiciously, you've been seeing a heck of a lot more content dropping left and right. So I feel like they were just waiting for that time to open up their vault and be like, here's all the shows, here's all the games.
Come on, me.
You're good.
I gotta figure out what's going on with this camera. Maybe I need to sit there and buy a new camera. Alrighty. Okay, let's move into a lot of the rest of this stuff is all TV and movie related. So let's see what we can do to bundle this together. Yes. Actually, this is rolled on the list. Oh wait, no. Okay. This one's not TV movie related. We're gonna cover all the non-TV stuff first. Some people when they wake up in the morning, they have to go for their cup of coffee and drink it down. Well, sometimes you spill it, and then next thing you know, you sue somebody because it's hot coffee and you failed to realize it was hot coffee. Only in America. All
America.
Right. Dunkin' Donuts has released coffee bars so you can eat. Latest thing on this whole edible coffee thing. But you can't spill a coffee, a bar you eat. So that's where I was trying to tie that together. Hey, the camera cleaned up. Cool. So what do you think about this one? I know you're not a big you don't strike me as a coffee drinker.
Yeah, I don't drink a lot of coffee. Let me rephrase that. I don't drink coffee ever. I sometimes go to Starbucks and get my favorite mocha every once in a while, but that's about it. But this coffee bar does intrigue me, because it puts it in a form that I might try it out because it's in a bar, and I sometimes a lot
better
eat,
than like the
protein
KFC
bars.
donut sandwich.
Oh yeah, or the double decker.
Oh God, let's not talk about that.
Let's
just forget that existed. But yeah, this one, I mean, Dunkin' Donuts has gotten a lot of really weird stuff because I mean they did the Girl Scout themed stuff. Now they have coffee bars that you can pick up and chew on. So it's like, all right, anything to diversify their revenue, all right?
Oh yeah. Anyway, anyhow, but Dunkin's been moving away from their traditional stuff, so they are diversifying. So as reported on bestproducts.com, the new coffee bars are available on Amazon at 15 bars for $18.99 or through Dunkin's online shop for $5.49 for 4 bars.
Okay. Alrighty.
Go get them today.
No. All right. Next story. You're an anime person.
Oh, yes.
I'm trying to be an anime person. I think live action adaptations of most animes tend to fall a little flat.
Flat or just fail miserably. Dragon Ball Evolution comes to mind.
There's that other one. But we won't talk about it. But
No.
apparently there is a live action version of One Punch Man.
Oh yes. Oh yes. It's been reported on IGN that a movie adaptation of the popular manga One Punch Man is being made, and the screenplay is written by the team from the original Venom movie.
Which I guess, depending on how they handle it, because I mean, I'm really kind of of the opinion that writers work on one story, then work on another. One story will do well, one will fall flat. It's really just out of their hands once they write it. But I've
Yeah.
watched a little bit of One Punch Man, and I wasn't overly impressed with it. So I'm a little leery. I'm not quite sure how this will go. I do have friends that love One Punch Man. They think it's absolutely great. But I
Yeah.
can't. There are elements of the show that I cannot stand. And there are
Yeah.
elements where it's like, okay, yes, I realize this is making fun of. I mean, this is a spoof show. This show is literally making fun of other anime and every other anime trope that exists. I get that.
That's what makes it so great.
But
And just yeah.
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm
I don't know.
finishing
Like
my
One
thought.
Punch Man. No, no, you're good. One Punch Man was a show I was skeptical of, but at least the first season. I haven't watched the second season, but the first season I thoroughly enjoyed because it, being an anime fan, the way it attacked through its lethargicness of the tropes that are action oriented within anime is hilarious. And the fact that they played on that monotone of what if you were all powerful like the main character and you just get in this very lethargic state, but it's everything else that is trivial that you are excited about. So that's what drew me to the character, because he's just all about, the food or stuff. He's not really all about, the fame and stuff. He just kind of did it because to prove a point. So, and it's not a matter of the if he's going to beat him, or the how and the why and the when.
It's the
Because
fact he's going to win.
yeah, he's going to win. It's the how and the why. It's when you tackle immortality, or the immortality trope in any medium, this is a good way to tackle it, because you have to tackle it from a different angle, a different perspective. And I think at least the first season, I haven't watched the second season, the first season tackled that pretty well.
Okay.
But the spin it, I'm a little skeptical of the live action because of one, the writers, because you've heard me before, I did not like the first Venom movie.
It had its moments, but I think
yeah.
Compared to some of the other recent comic book adaptations, the writing definitely can make or break.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't have to and I think with those, rely nothing against the director or the actors, but I think if the actor is what is carrying the film because of the writing is missing a few things, or the way the director interprets the script,
Yeah.
I think those are all things that go in there.
Yeah.
It could be that, like I was saying earlier, the writers wrote the script. It's the actors and the director that executed the script. So you can't really blame bad writing on some things. You can definitely see how lazy writing, so to speak, will impact a film. But it's that
Oh yeah.
You know?
But just the fact of hearing that it's, part of the group from a movie that I didn't really like is working on an anime that has a lot more layer to it than what it puts on the surface, just because it has a very satirical sense of the genre. So trying to adapt it, especially adapt a series that attacks in a very hilarious way Japanese tropes of anime for a Western audience, is going to be very hard, I think.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to spin it in a different way. So I always have hope, but I'm leery.
Okay. Next up, Netflix news. It looks like
Yes.
We're going to get Avatar: The Last Airbender on Netflix, the anime, not that other thing which we won't talk about.
No, don't.
But the anime, and I'm excited for that because I loved the anime. I thought it was definitely one of those great things that had a lot of mature tones, but it was definitely geared toward it. But you did, it was in such a subtle way that you really didn't know, the kids didn't really notice it other than they were hooked. So I'm kind of excited for that one.
Excited because I never got to watch the series, so this
I
will
know
give me a
it was
chance
on
to watch the
Amazon
series.
Prime forever, and
Oh
then they
yeah,
pulled it off. So
yeah. There could be a reason why, because Netflix signed that deal with Nickelodeon. So
yeah, if that
yeah, so
contract
this
ran out, the contract ran out. I get it.
yeah, so it's going to be on the streaming service May 15th.
Sweet.
Screen Rants.
Alrighty. Next up, another classic show from the late 90s, early 2000s, I think. Parks and Recreation is going to do a reunion special for charity. And this is cool because this is one of those newer. This is going to be a newer thing that hit the air, because they're going to do this a lot like how we're doing this podcast. It's going to be on network television. It's going to be scripted, and it's going to be them doing a video conference because of social distancing. They can't get together to do it. I think this is awesome, and I think this is definitely a mirror, arts imitating life.
Oh yeah, this shows, like, I never watched the series, but from a lot of people that I know that watch the series says it's one of the best TV series out there. And this just highlight, even for somebody who doesn't know much about the series, this highlights the fact that they know how to play on situations. If they're filming it from their homes, but playing that within the story,
yes,
that's just awesome. That's all I can say. It's just awesome.
I very rarely watch network television. I might actually try and check this out.
Oh yeah, I might. And it has a lot of actors and actresses I like. So
Okay, so next up we've got a Hunger Games prequel movie, and apparently the director from several of the films is returning to do this. I think this is kind of cool.
Oh yeah, so as reported by Comic Book News, Francis Lawrence, who was the director of Catching Fire and then Mockingjay Part 1 and Part 2, is coming back to work on a prequel series. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.
Sounds like a Game of Thrones title.
Yes, it does. So
I think that's the whole thing. I'm not too familiar with the whole Hunger Games franchise, so we'll have to see how that goes.
I watched all the films. I'm not familiar with the books, but it'll be interesting to see how everything turned out the way it is. But like any prequel, it does already come in with its own flaw because everybody knows the outcome. So, you know, sometimes that could make or break a prequel. So we'll see.
Alrighty. Looks like some news, since we talked about Westworld earlier today. Looks like Westworld Season 4 has been greenlit.
Oh yeah. So it's been reported on IGN that Season 4 has been greenlit by HBO, as it was announced on last Wednesday.
Alrighty.
Which was expected. So
I think it was. I mean, Westworld is kind of their new flagship series, so definitely expected that to keep coming. There's all right, we'll skip that one till the end. Apple TV announces a new Fraggle Rock series. Now, I remember this growing up as a kid, so this is like classic Muppets.
Oh yeah, so they are bringing back Fraggle Rock on Apple TV Plus, which is a good thing for Apple Plus. I would guess. I haven't really used that service, so I don't know how the shows are. But getting a recognizable name on there.
I just haven't gotten around it.
Yeah, but getting a recognizable franchise to come over is a plus. It's a plus, no pun intended. But yeah.
Yeah. All right. Next thing looks like. All right. Next thing, we were talking about the theaters going into more of the VOD releases. We got the animated movie Scuba, which is another Scooby-Doo movie, is been scrapped for theatrical release and going straight for VOD debut, which you know,
Yes.
I mean, it's a kids' film. Kids' films are probably, if you have a kids' film in the hopper to be released, not doing it on VOD is ridiculous.
Another property. Yeah, this is another recognizable property, so it probably would have done gangbangers at the theaters just because everybody recognizes Scooby Doo. But going straight to VOD, like you said, is going to play on that audience. But I think Warner Brothers decided to do this because of what Trolls did. But we'll save that for another show.
All right, all right. Let's see. A couple of things Star Wars related. Let's go. See, Mandalorian season 3 is already in development. And it's like season 2 hasn't even finished filming, and we already have season 3 in development, which, given Disney's proclivity for franchises, is not necessarily unexpected.
It's not unexpected. It's just very very quick, but at the same time, they probably are greenlighting it really fast because one, Disney probably wants to get a really strong flagship show for their streaming service, which this could be it. And two, it is a boon for an expansion of more lore and more adventures beyond the traditional trilogy series.
I think also let's think about this. We're still in the middle of lockdown, right?
Yeah.
Everything's on hold. Well, once lockdown is lifted and everybody can start, filming again, I think they will be in their prime ability to continue filming through season 2 into season 3. So we might have those scenarios like with Lord of the Rings where, hey, I film a bunch of stuff all at once, and then back in the editing room, I cut it up into the various episodes, so to speak. So I think they might, depending on, I mean, this makes a great use of time. You're sitting there, you don't have a whole lot going on. Let's work on those scripts. Let's sit there and get it out. And then as we get it out, now all of a sudden we can film the rest of season 2 and season 3 at the same time and then edit it. And then all of a sudden I've got season 3 on the hopper. So I've got more time to polish it. I mean, that's what I'm thinking. That's how I would probably approach that. What about you?
Oh yeah. As season 2 was already in full development before even season 1 dropped on Disney Plus. So, given the time frame, they definitely can work on the script and everything. So this is a good time to drop it. And as reported on the article, Jon Favreau is working on the script, and other pre-productions like art and production departments are also doing the same while they're on the downtime right now. Because I think season 2 is already past post-production because it's dropping in like September. So
it might still be.
This is a good year. Yeah,
I think principal filming is probably done, and assuming they don't have to do any reshoots, which I think TV shooting schedules are different than films. Not doing any reshoots, they should be good to drop it.
Oh yeah, with TV shoots, it's more of a typical 9-to-5 job. So you do have that continuous flow and a continuous room of writers and producers.
Okay.
But like you said, I agree. They are using the time wisely. They're getting ahead of the game so they can get all the pre-production done. So if they do need to make twerks, it's not going to be a rush job.
Right.
So,
right. Okay.
But it also, yes. But speaking of Star Wars.
Yep. Continuing Star Wars. Star Wars Rise of Skywalker is coming to Disney Plus 2 months ahead of schedule. Gee, who didn't see this coming with the success of Frozen and Onward? But this one's nice because it's going to drop and be available on Star Wars Day.
May 4th.
Which I'm happy with because my birthday is Star Wars Day.
Oh, yes. And not to mention, not only is Rise of Skywalker going to drop on that day 2 months earlier, we're going to have all 9 films available at one time.
All 9 of the Skywalker saga. Yep.
Yes.
Which... So I already have all of the Star Wars films. I think the only film I don't have digitally is the Clone Wars animated movie, which started the whole series. So
yeah.
All right, and our last story to talk about to close out for tonight is circling back to Final Fantasy VII. And it's an interesting little tidbit that Final Fantasy VII's launch numbers broke 3.5 million in the first 3 days.
Oh yes. As reported on Game Radar, the 3.5 million is a boon for remakes, but also it compares to when the original release is sold 9.8 million copies worldwide.
Yeah, I think that's pretty amazing.
So it's already a third of that, but it also shows a strong indicator of two things: one, the fan base for this game, and two, the fact that people they know it's a remake, but they want to replay. They want to return back to something that they are.
It's got to be one of the most talked about remakes since the whole concept of remaking classic games on newer technology has come up.
Yeah.
I mean, this has been a prevalent thing, I think, at least for the last 10 years, talking about the revamping of Final Fantasy VII or the re-release of Final Fantasy VII because it was such a beloved story that has had echoes reverberating through a lot of other games. Hell, even through next future installments of the franchise has had some callback to Final Fantasy VII, even though these games are not technically connected in any way.
Yeah, no connection whatsoever. This ain't no Stephen King universe, but it does show the strongness of it's okay to do a remake, but people will navigate to it if you do it right.
Yeah, very much so. Alrighty, well, we're about an hour and a half in, so there's a lot look back to some of our more average conversation length. So thanking everybody for sticking with us, or at least checking out the
Thank you.
But if you downloaded this via your podcast apps, thank you. Give us a like, give us a review. If you're checking this out on YouTube, on the Scuba Studio YouTube channel, please like and subscribe. That would kind of help grow things there. With that, I think we're ready to roll into our closing stuff. Rye, you got anything?
Just subscribe, follow us. Thank you for all the support, and much love to everyone. All right.
Oh man, this is my fault. I failed to check this last button. Let's try this again, shall we? Let's just
rewind.
Let's just click there, check it out. There's all our social media links: Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, Discord. We have a Discord channel. Come check us out, hang out with us, contact us. Thank you all for checking us out. Tell your friends to check us out, share us, like us,
Check us out.
all that fun stuff. And with that, we will bid you all adieu. Good night. Stay safe. Stay healthy. And we will see you on our next one.
Peace.